Hi and welcome to Bold Follower. My name's Joshua, Murray is behind the camera, and we wanted to share with you a concept called Flatland. By the end of this speech, you will be able to understand, in the same way someone in 2 dimensions needs to be open to something beyond them, i.e. something being in 3 dimensions, we need to be open to something beyond us. Now, when I cover the word dimension, which is going to be mentioned many times, I don't want you to freak out. We're going to use the word dimension as direction. So look at it like direction is length, which would be back and forth, width, which would be front and back, and height, which would be up and down. Okay, so when I use the dimension, just think of direction. Easy enough, right? All right, let's begin. A man named Edwin A. Abbott from the United Kingdom in 1884 proposed a land of people who lived in 2 dimensions. Remember, directions? This land was called Flatland. Join me in imagining about how it would be like to live in a land with not 3 dimensions, as you or I know, length, width, and height, but just length and width. One where, if you had a piece of paper in front of you, would be as flat or flatter than that piece of paper. You can move right or left, but you can't jump because up and down don't exist. You can't look up because up doesn't exist. You can't look down because down doesn't exist. All you can do is look forward and across, or move across the paper. Everything is flat, living in a space that is flat. So everything you knew and everything you interacted with, everything you could touch, the circles, the squares, the octagons, would basically look all the same, flat. And from your perspective, they all look kind of like lines. Now, what if we encountered a 3-dimensional object in Flatland? What if I were to put my ring through Flatland? What would it look like? Well, when it first touched, you would see a point appearing out of what seemed to be nowhere. That point would then turn into 2 lines. Those lines would grow apart, and then they would grow back together and become a point, and then disappear. Let's say 2 people, these 2, were watching. What would they say? Well, did you see that? Yeah. What was it? Well, it looked like a point came out of nowhere, and then line, point. Well, yeah, I saw that, but I think it's something more. I think it would have been a ring. See, when you do point, line, point, I think they're all connected. Yeah, a ring. To which would be responded by, what do you mean something more? What do you mean a ring? We're in 2 dimensions. Have you ever held a ring? Have you ever seen a ring? Have you ever visited Ringland? It was just a point, lines, and a point. I have no idea what you're talking about. All we can see is points and lines. Do you have any proof? Do you have any photos? Do you have any evidence? Maybe we can test it in the lab. It would force the circle to say things like, I feel. He would have to use words like, I believe. He would be obligated to say things like, I just have faith. This experience with a 3-dimensional object, the ring in this example, would show 2 vastly different worldviews. The first worldview would transition into what we know is all there is. Flatland is all there is. And it's all we can prove. It's all we can document. It's all we can test in a lab. It's all we have. It's all we know. This is called reductionistic. It can sound very convincing because the other wouldn't be able to come up with much empirical evidence. And now the circle is in this unfortunate position because though he is absolutely convinced that there is a ring, something that others may not even be able to comprehend with their mind, and he's correct, by the way, all he can do is talk about feelings and hints and nudges and a sense of belief in words like, again, faith. Now let's say I, a 3D person in 3D world, in all my 3D-ness, wanted to interact with Flatland. Let's say I put my hand through Flatland. We'd probably see a similar situation, right? The square would look at my hand and say, all that was point, point, line, point, point, line, point, line, point, line, point, etc. And the circle would be convinced it was something more. That looked like something that was part of something else, maybe even someone. He could connect based off his experience that there was something else. Those were not separate and completely random. They were connected. If I put my hand not in Flatland, but right near Flatland, like right here, right beside it, right next to it, the circle might have to say things like, do you feel that? Do you feel that? I can't explain it. I don't have any words. I can't test it. But I believe there's something close. I feel the presence of something. And that would stand to show that the square would say, there's nothing there. I can't prove it. The feelings are just feelings. You can't prove anything. There is nothing there. Now the difference between the ring interacting with Flatland and me, a being interacting and communing with a three-dimensional world, would be that I could theoretically not just interact, but communicate in an intelligible way with the people of Flatland. That is also a topic for another day, but no matter what, in any way, whether it's me or a ring, a three-dimensional object, whenever we interact, it's still up to the viewer to determine what that means, if they're connected or not. Let's take it one step forward and say that we in 3D land can look at a two-dimensional piece of paper and know there is something more. It's not just length and width, it's height too. We know it, we can see it, it's clear, it's obvious to us. The one who sounded completely crazy would be dead right, and the one who sounded rational and calculated and weighed all the evidence and would be unfortunately missing a whole revelation, a whole world, a whole new reality right in front of them. What if there was a someone of more, just beyond our perception, our perfect scientific method, empirical evidences, documents, things we can put in a tube? And if there was, and if he were to be communicating with you, what would that mean? So thank you for joining me at Flatland. I hope you have a great rest of your day and you were blessed by this. If you were blessed, if you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, follow, keep up with us, and you can always support the shop too. Hope you guys have a great day. Thanks. Bye.